Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend, whether it was here in the United States, where everyone was attempting to blow themselves up with fireworks, or over in the UK, where the Labour Party, led by Keir Starmer, has taken control of Britain and ended 14 years of Conservative Party rule, causing Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to step down.
Or in France, where they averted the rise of the new Nazi party.
Yeah, it was also a nice weekend for everyone over in France, where an alliance of leftist parties defeated the far-right party and Marine Le Pen, leaving her in tears and creating yet another crying conservative meme to add to the pile.
Yeah, it was very satisfying seeing that woman cry.
Now, not only is this very funny, but it also sets some solid footing over here if Biden can just find the strength to remove himself from the presidential election. We could be just like them. And these two governments were expected to go for conservatives, but instead, it was another red wave that failed to materialize as citizens decided to just not give fascism another try, at least for now. If it were successful, the French election could have resulted in the first far-right government since World War II, according to the Associated Press.
Vichy 2. Well, there's at least some good news for parts of Europe and the UK. We, here in the USA, we are still dealing with plenty of our own problems. And one of our biggest problems continues to grow as President Joe Biden has not only refused to step down as the candidate for the Democratic Party for president, he has become undeniably increasingly Trump-like in his interactions with the press and other elected officials, including members of his own party, and his most diehard fans, increasingly MAGA-like in their refusal to accept reality.
They're calling it Blueanon.
It is very much Blueanon.
Delusional.
It is fascinating. I mean, this is all lurked below the surface this whole time, but
it's really coming out
in the past
now.
week or so, just looking at replies to just the most milquetoast liberals saying hey guys, maybe he's too old, and just seeing the claws come out. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we'll get to Biden in a second. But since it's the first episode back since the 4th of July holiday, we should probably cover some fireworks-induced catastrophes. So hold on to your butts, because it's going to get pretty dark.
Yeah.
Honestly, based on how insane Los Angeles goes with fireworks, despite them being illegal, it is shocking that we aren't seeing more catastrophic accidents from across the country. But there were definitely some moments that stood out, including what appears to be a misfiring during a professionally held fireworks display at a football stadium in Utah. Here's ABC News with more.
Malfunctioning fireworks veered into the stands at a crowded Utah football stadium and struck members of the audience during a 4th of July celebration, sending up to 6 people to the hospital, according to authorities and the event organizer. The mishap occurred during the opening ceremonies of the Stadium of Fire show, the flagship event at Provo's annual Freedom Festival at Brigham Young University's Lavelle Edwards Stadium. The fireworks were shot off inside the outdoor arena as several jets passed overhead. Organizers halted the show for about 15 minutes while injured audience members received medical attention, Freedom Festival spokesperson Emery Cook said Friday. Videos posted on social media show individual fireworks veering off from the cluster sent into the sky over the field and landing amongst rows of spectators in the stands at the outdoor arena. About 45,000 people attended the sold-out show, Cook said. Teresa Jack of Provo, who was watching the show from the field, said she saw a rocket fly over her head and into the stadium's east stands, exploding and sending up a big cloud of smoke like a bomb going off.
Hold on now. So, obviously at stadiums, during sports, they shoot off fireworks. Dodger Stadium shoots off fireworks anytime they win.
Every Friday.
They don't shoot it off from inside the stadium. They're way, way out in the parking lot, shooting it away from the stadium because, first of all, it's safer, but secondly, how the fuck are you watching a fireworks show inside? Are you laying down, staring straight up? How does this even work?
And the videos from this, which I don't think we can show because they are, I didn't see anyone, blatantly injured in the videos in a way that would get it blocked. But who knows? These might be like Storyful or Viral Hog videos by now anyway. But this one guy's filming the show, and then a rocket just comes straight to him, and the only thing you can see is like a giant burn mark on his shirt.
Jesus
but it doesn't show
Christ.
anyone around him. But it was serious. However, for those of you who are very concerned, it brings us great pleasure to announce that the Jonas Brothers did go on with the show. They played a full concert for the surviving members of this crowd.
Yeah,
they said the show must go on.
That's what the crowd needed at that moment. The Jonas Brothers to come and bring them together. In a time of mourning.
Yes, exactly.
Now, on the other side of the country, we got an unfortunate but important reminder that you actually are not immortal. Even if it's a holiday, life is not a cartoon.
Yeah, even if you're drinking a whole lot.
Explosives are dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, some guy grabbed a firework, held it up to his head as a goof, and instead of comically blasting his hair back and covering his face in soot, it actually it killed him.
Yeah.
Because this is real life. You shouldn't fuck around with explosives no matter how tempting it is. This is literally one of those mannequins.
Yeah,
That the consumer protection, one of the mannequins that they set up in the National Mall.
They're like, this is what's going to happen.
One of them is literally a guy holding a firework on top of his head. And you can see the results in the mannequin's not pretty. I imagine it's even worse with a real human body.
Just like with OSHA, I believe the consumer protection, when they were displaying those mannequin explosions, were basing it off of actual accidents that happened and apparently continue to happen.
This is something that people have been known to do.
I know this looks dumb, but we're here to tell you, it's happened and it'll happen again.
Adding insult to injury and creating a near-perfect analogy for the state of our nation, the dude who blew himself up with a firework was dressed as Uncle Sam while doing so.
Yeah.
From Charleston, South Carolina news outlet WCBD-TV, CBD, relaxing. Dorchester County Coroner Paul Bruthers said the victim, 41-year-old Alan Ray McGrew, ignited a large firework device and set it on his head. The device exploded, causing massive head injuries. The incident happened during a neighborhood block party. According to a report from the sheriff's office, the victim's wife told deputies she believed he placed the firework on his head to show off. Family members tried to get him to stop, but the firework went off and McGrew collapsed.
Ruining not only his life, but the lives of everyone at that block party.
Yeah, this is for every 4th of July for the rest of their lives. They're going to think about the time they watched a man explode his head in front of them as a goof.
At least they'll never do that again, you would hope.
So with the 4th of July fireworks out of the way, it's time to start taking a sobering look at the state of our country, most notably the condition of our current president, his age, his cognitive decline, and his absolute refusal to acknowledge that his time in politics should come to an end if he actually cares about the future of democracy and this country. Even we agree that Kamala Harris would be the better choice if it came down to that. I can barely believe myself. That's how far we've come. The children yearn for Kamala.
Yeah.
And we would be happy to see her, or honestly, anybody that is younger than, 65. Let's say 65 years old.
That's a good line.
Normal fucking, like what should be normal retirement age.
Yeah.
People who have the means to retire generally do it around then. They don't just keep working until they fucking die.
Yes, I would say that is not a way to live.
Yeah.
And you know what, Biden, on a few things, you done a good job. Why not just retire and leave your legacy intact? But no, he's decided to do the other thing.
It's fascinating hearing a lot of the chatter from behind the scenes about how, like, apparently he is very concerned about his legacy.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons stopping him from doing any of this. And it's like, I want them to remember me as the guy who defeated Donald Trump. And it's like,
you did that already.
You did that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you had said a year ago that you weren't gonna run for, like, you would go down in history as like a pretty important president.
Yeah.
And now you're leaving the door open to being the guy who lost to Donald Trump.
Yeah, and kind of allowed American democracy to be dismantled.
Well, what matters is not whether or not this country descends into a fascist hellscape. What matters is that Joe Biden gave it 110%.
And that's why he's going to get a personal pan pizza and a participation trophy after this big game.
That's right. So there have been rumors of Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom stepping in, which would also, Gavin wouldn't be my first choice. I think Gretchen's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And she's very well liked. She polls very well. The people of Michigan like her a lot.
At this point, I'm happy with anyone under the age of 65, and that's called being pragmatic.
Yeah. But yeah, all of this seems to rely, the goddamn ambulance is here again.
Must have been another fireworks incident.
I hope not, but they are still launching them, and it's very annoying.
Yes.
But all of this talk, it relies entirely on Biden stepping aside, which he very stupidly will not do. And he's been on a tear recently in increasingly desperate attempts to prove that he's not only capable of doing the job, but that he can and will do that job successfully for the next 4.5 years, which would put him at 85 or so when this is all said and done.
I believe he might actually be 86. His birthday's in November.
Yeah, he will be 86 by the time he wraps up that second term.
which means he'll be 82 after this, like a week or two after this election. Anyways, that's a big if Joe Biden stays in and is successfully elected president. And that seems increasingly unlikely as more members of his own party, some of his staff, have started publicly asking him to step down for the good of the country. Like we said, though, the correct way to do this, and the one that will create the least amount of political nonsense, is Joe Biden willingly stepping aside.
Yeah, no, that's another thing. It's you want to talk about legacy. The longer you let this go on, the longer you dig your heels in, the worse your legacy looks in the end. Even if you do step aside, which would still be the right thing to do.
Yes. If you are pushed out,
there's a graceful way to do
bad.
it, and then there's a fucking embarrassing way to do it.
If you're pushed out, looks bad. If you lose to Donald Trump, even worse.
The thing is, he can't get pushed out.
Yeah.
It's his choice.
That's
in
the
end.
problem. Yes. Even though we are over a week from this disastrous debate performance, he is not showing any signs of stepping down. In fact, he's done multiple interviews with major news outlets to prove he's got the juice. But the only thing these appearances have done for Biden are just reaffirmed everyone's belief that he is too old to have the most important job in the country.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he goes on, like, he does a long sit-down interview with George Stephanopoulos, and all you have to do is, like, Google, like, Biden 2020 interview, and
see how much
it's
changed.
like, oh, yeah, no, it's noticeably in decline here.
Yeah. He's done these interviews. He still comes off as old.
Stubborn.
Yeah. And he also is, at this point now, drawing a hell of a lot of unnecessary and damning parallels to his opponent. And I guess it's time for our near daily reminder and warning. Being critical of Biden does not mean we support Donald Trump or that weird third-party candidate who ate a dog.
Allegedly.
Donald Trump would be worse for the country in every conceivable way.
Yeah.
Which is why everyone is so goddamn concerned with Biden, and why it is infuriating that he seems unwilling to put the country over his own ego.
Yeah, no, it's, and we want
At first I was like, maybe he's confused. Now I think he's actually selfish.
No, he's very selfish, and it's hasn't been, like, reported on a lot, but, like, he, going back the 50 years he's been in politics, like, he's had a very negative relationship with, like, the press and just anyone who's ever doubted him. He holds grudges.
That's the problem.
Like crazy.
Is now that people are doubting him, he's going to fight harder than ever.
Yeah, he is. It's very, like, Nixonian. Mm-hmm. Nixon had, like, the same thing where he would just stay up pissed off about his grudges.
I don't know if you've been following the news past 2 weeks, but he's been completely exonerated, Elliot. So you owe
That's true.
President Nixon a big apology because those were official acts.
Richard Milhouse Nixon did nothing wrong. But yeah, no, and listen. We don't want Trump to win,
no,
and that's why we want Biden to step aside, because if you look at the fucking polling, in every state which would be considered a battleground, Democrats running for Congress, running for Senate, polling is looking good for them. They're looking like they got a healthy lead there. Joe Biden, on those same polls, not looking good.
No.
The exact opposite. Looking bad. Looking like he's going to lose, but the Democrats are going to win in Congress, which if you look at that information, you say, okay, well, it's not that people don't want to elect Democrats, it's that they don't want to elect Joe Biden.
Yes, and that fact has turned him into a very aggressive, very loud.
Tanned, rested.
Tested president. He kind of seems like Trump in at least the last two interviews.
But yeah, multiple people have pointed out in the past couple days, but yeah, Biden has become increasingly combative towards members of his own party, and has lashed out at the press and media elites, and has begun yelling during interviews in an attempt to not sound feeble, but he does it in a way that comes off as just angry and condescending and old. And worst of all, he's rocking what appears to be just a horrific spray-on tan.
Yeah.
Rendering him as orange as his predecessor, and making us feel as though we are on crazy pills. Yeah. What is going on? Now, luckily, a headline from Business Insider made us realize that we weren't seeing things. It read simply, "You're not losing your mind. Biden is getting more orange." They also included a bunch of side-by-sides and links to recent appearances. But yeah, looks are all bullshit. It's the way that he's expressing his denial. That's what's important. And what appears to be an ego-driven quest to stay in power. Those are what's drawing most of the concerns.
Yeah.
He's getting really close to the Trump mantra of "I alone can fix all of society's problems." And it's bullshit, and it's fucking bizarre. Mm-hmm. We have two extremely selfish, egotistical men running for president. I'd still think Biden or Trump is the more dangerously egotistical and selfish person, but yeah.
And they're both very old.
Both very old.
Very
so
old, very nasty.
frail, might not live through that term. Whoever wins, we're getting a dead president, folks. We haven't had one of those in a while.
When we left you last week, Biden was promoting a big interview with ABC News and George Stephanopoulos, which was supposed to show how on top of it he actually is.
This is like a kid being like, okay, watch this. And
he just kicks his leg out from under him and falls?
No, not even that. Just does like the shittiest, weakest ollie you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. You can skateboard. I thought you gathered the whole neighborhood around to watch you.
Yeah.
You set up the fucking half pipe. Like, I thought you were gonna do something cool.
No, this is the dude from Mad TV going, look what I can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was made to have him look good, how on top of it he is, and how he can respond to the hard questions, as long as those questions are predetermined in some cases. And he can also fight back against the attacks by just simply quoting his administration's track record, which, as we've said before, it's actually pretty good domestically, outside of his handling of Palestine and Gaza, especially when compared to other nations and how they have bounced back from peak pandemic times. Another thing we have to constantly point out. But yeah, this appearance did very little to move the needle at all. And like we said, it just kind of came off as combative, dismissive, and a bit out of touch with the realities we're facing here and what the results of a failed campaign could be. And we're going to show a few clips, and just keep in mind that this interview was supposed to help Biden convince people that he's not too old to remain president.
So these first two are Biden commenting on what he views as just a bad night during the debate, and also his refusal to acknowledge the legitimacy of polls indicating that he is drastically falling behind.
Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You won the popular vote in 2020, but it was still deadly close in the Electoral
By
College.
7 million votes.
Yes, but you're behind now in the popular vote.
I don't buy that.
Okay, the next are his response to members of his own party asking him very nicely to step down. And also the clip that made headlines in the following days where Biden indicates that only the Lord Almighty could convince him to step aside.
Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark and I have a different perspective.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
So two more that stood out to us. So first, apparently, according to this interview, Biden did not rewatch the debate between himself and former President Trump.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Hey, buddy, maybe you should watch your own debate back because it might shock you. And then you might understand exactly why everyone is kind of freaking out.
Yeah, that is fascinating. This is like someone who thinks they're like really good at singing, but has never actually listened to their voice recorded.
Yeah.
It would probably help a lot.
I would go as far as saying that he should probably be forced to rewatch his debate performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, politics isn't sports, but any athlete who just simply refused to watch tape of their own performances, that's objective. You shouldn't do that. You should watch yourself. Especially if you went out and played a game and everyone said you fucking sucked. You should watch the tape.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally, this is probably the clip that angered people the most because he just flat out says that if he loses to Trump, it doesn't really matter because, he gave it his all.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
Yeah, don't you understand? He tried, and that's all that matters in life. You try.
Yeah, it's the most important election in all of history. But also, if it doesn't go our way, it's important that he tried.
Yeah, he really put in the effort and gave it his all.
Yeah, that's what's important. So yeah, no, it's fine. There are literal lives, freedoms, climate issues, and lots more at risk. But as long as you tried, that's what really matters, I guess, to you.
Yeah.
And you are the protagonist of reality, so.
Sure.
We're all just living in the Joe Biden story, the movie. We're all just NPCs in your open world game, sir.
So obviously this ABC News interview didn't do much to sway public opinion in Biden's favor. And instead of having much in the way of self-reflection, Biden just continued to double down by releasing official statements regarding that refusal to step down. And then called into a cable news morning show where he is almost universally beloved in order to angrily rant for a few minutes, much to the visible shock and dismay of the hosts who thought this was going to be a slam dunk.
And in fact, the show that Donald Trump used to angrily call into on voice only back in 2016, it was like a regular media appearance he did was get on the phone, don't use a camera, even though you definitely could.
And he still does that to this day with Fox News sometimes.
He does,
if they allow him, if they're not being very nasty.
But Morning Joe was the show that Trump, they'd just have him on constantly.
But yes, as Elliot's alluding to, this is so straight out of the Donald Trump playbook that it almost feels like plagiarism. It is weird. And first, here's just a few select quotes from a letter that President Biden wrote to congressional Democrats on Monday morning. I want you to know that despite all the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I am firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end, and to beating Donald Trump. I wouldn't be running again if I did not absolutely believe I was the best person to beat Donald Trump in 2024.
He then claims that he won a Democratic primary where, he ran against Marianne Williamson, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Dean Phillips, and not even in every state because some of them could only get on some of the ballots. And I guess that means that the people have chosen Joe Biden unequivocally. We had a very real and very cool primary where, we honestly assessed the question of whether Joe Biden should run for a second term.
Also, I'd like to point out...
Honestly and sincerely.
I forgot to put it in here, but I do want to point out that there was a not insignificant effort going around where people did not commit to a candidate during the primary voting.
Yeah, there was. I think there's something like 3,000 delegates, and they got a couple dozen.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a real primary because...
he essentially ran unopposed.
If it was a real primary, you wouldn't just have these randos running.
Yeah.
Anyone within the Democratic Party who thinks that they have a decent shot at being president, and there are a lot of those people, did not run specifically because it would fuck up their chances of actually getting anything done within the party.
Yeah, in reality, no one active in the party would run against an incumbent president and risk dividing the party and ruining their political career.
Yeah, it's just not done.
But sure. I mean, he repeats over and over and over that voters have chosen him and that he's going to honor that choice, despite willingly admitting that he is not going to listen to current polling that has undoubtedly changed since he became the presumptive nominee earlier this spring. He then goes on to end the letter with, the question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end. We have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump. We have 42 days to the Democratic Convention and 119 days to the general election. Any weakening of resolve or lack of clarity about the task ahead only helps Trump and hurts us. It is time to come together, move forward as a unified party, and defeat Donald Trump. Doesn't instill me with a lot of hope.
No. Now, unsurprisingly, these statements have largely failed to win over some top Democrats, as well as members of the press, members of his own administration, and, the American people, the ones who vote.
Yeah.
Even worse was the aforementioned appearance on MSNBC's Morning Joe with hosts Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, where Biden literally sounded like Donald Trump, angrily yelling about the elites and news media coordinating against him, getting awfully close to uttering phrases like phony poll numbers and fake media or haters, even going as far as challenging other members of his party to come at the king, do it at the convention.
1v1 me, bro.
So yeah, definitely things that someone who's totally in control would say.
That's the other problem with this, is that for 2 weeks, it has been nothing but focus on the very real situation of Biden's age and no other topics, which are very, very important. There's a lot of things to fix, solve in this country. There's a lot of damage that we can potentially stop. but this has absolutely dominated the news cycle.
Sure.
And for good reason.
And I mean, yeah, listen, we have a for-profit news media, and there's a story here.
There is.
It is an interesting story. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions who want to talk about it. So, yeah, like, obviously, there is that angle.
Yeah.
And if Biden stepped aside, that would become the news story.
Yeah.
But that story would have a lot of potential to really turn things around, depending on a lot of factors. But right now, this is all bad.
They're taking what could be a incredible free marketing path and doing the opposite.
Yeah.
They're instead trying to prove that this soon-to-be 82-year-old man is totally fine behind the wheel when everyone's like, just let someone else drive, for Christ's sake.
Just, you know, it's not going away. Like, Biden can say, like, all right, let's put this to rest, but it's not going away.
Buddy,
I'm
you're
sorry.
not going to get any younger or healthier. I'm sorry. I feel bad for this old man,
I do.
but
I felt bad for him a little bit. My sympathies have dried up.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, here's Politico with more on this, and we will try to include some clips. If they are not included, it's because we got dinged for copyright, even though clearly the president speaking should be fair use, but
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the primary reasons Biden has been visiting stops around the country was to make sure my instinct was right about the party still wanting me to be the nominee, he said. Biden boasted about his large and enthusiastic crowds and made a jab at criticism that he relies on a teleprompter, saying, "I did it all extemporaneously. I'm not getting any of what I was told. I wanted to make sure I was right, that the average voter out there still wanted Joe Biden," he said, "and I'm confident they do." Biden appeared on Morning Joe shortly after sending a letter to Hill Democrats on Monday that firmly stated his commitment to staying in the race, in a bid to shut down more intra-party calls for him to step aside. He reiterated his belief that he is the best candidate to beat former President Donald Trump in November, who he said hasn't done a damned thing since the debate and is riding around in his golf cart. And I'd say that last part is true because for one of the first times in recent memory, the Republican Party can actually just sit back and watch Democrats completely self-destruct. And actually making any comment or even reminding the public that Trump exists would hurt them in this situation.
Yeah, why act when your opponent is already doing your job for you?
There's got to be something in the art of war about that.
I bet that Sun Tzu, he probably would have said something like that, maybe a bit more eloquently.
Yeah.
Anyway, the article goes on to say that 4 senior Democrats on Sunday said in a private call with House leadership that Biden should step down. Many lawmakers have privately expressed concerns about Biden's age and viability since his disastrous debate performance last month. And the number of Democrats publicly calling on the president to withdraw is expected to grow from the 5 who have said so in the days ahead. They're big names, but I don't care what those big names think. They were wrong in 2020. They were wrong in 2022 about the red wave. They were wrong in 2024, Biden said, responding to a question about prominent figures who have called on him to step aside. Wait, who specifically was wrong all those times?
Everyone coming against him. The polls, the other Democrats who can't believe he can do it, probably Bernie Sanders.
No, that's the thing, is like Bernie and all the squad members have, in my opinion, very wisely just been like,
yeah, sure, whatever he says.
If I join this at all, it becomes about, the far left is trying to get Joe Biden to step down. The calls are all coming from literally in the middle of the House. It's all centrist Dems doing this.
Yeah.
And
so Jerry Nadler was one of the 4 people.
Let them do it. You don't have to help them at all.
Remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me at the convention.
But it is crazy for him to be like, everyone's wrong but me.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy how that works when you're right and everyone's wrong.
It's also a very big character flaw of one Donald Trump.
Yeah. So then there have been White House press briefings, which have been a total disaster since the debate, where conversations about Biden's age and mental fitness have become the focus, with Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre repeating lines verbatim and getting angry with the press.
During Monday's press conference, members of the press inquired about White House visitor logs that indicated a Parkinson's disease specialist has visited the White House 8 times in 8 months between last July and this March. This line of questioning was shot down, with Jean-Pierre repeating that Biden has had a neurologist examination coinciding with his annual physical, that the neurologist had evaluated him 3 times, and that they had no new information or signs of neurological disorder since his last examination in February. When asked specifically about the Parkinson's specialist, Jean-Pierre wouldn't say why that doctor was visiting the White House, but said that the president was not being treated for Parkinson's disease. And somehow, this press conference was better than last week's press conference, where Jean-Pierre simply repeated the excuses for Biden's poor debate performance over and over and over again. He was traveling a bunch. He had a cold. He was traveling a bunch. He had a cold. Okay, there was 2 weeks in between all of that travel and the debate. Well, he had a cold. Okay, but he's had colds before and he didn't sound like this. He was traveling a bunch. And
I feel like I'm being gaslit a little bit.
it does feel odd. Now, we have no idea what's going to happen with Biden in the coming weeks and days, but this definitely isn't going away. And even before we filmed this, another Democratic senator, this time Patty Murray of Washington, put out an official statement asking very nicely. All of these statements have been very nice.
Yeah.
In fact, it's almost like a classic,
It's an intervention.
They're hyping him up. They're like, sir,
Yeah.
you have accomplished so much. You have so much to be proud. It is literally, as people have pointed out, taking the driver's license away from an elderly family member. You've done, let us chauffeur you to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
You can drive the shopping cart when we get there. Just please, for the love of God. So who knows? They very nicely asked Biden to think about stepping down. But who knows? As we're all aware, this story may have already changed by the time you watch this video, making the whole thing pointless, aside from showing off fireworks disasters,
yeah,
obviously.
always, love showing off fireworks disasters.
Yeah.
Except for the one where the guy died.
Yeah, he shouldn't have died, but
He shouldn't
definitely
have.
was his fault. And he taught everyone a very valuable lesson.
He did. Yeah, you don't do that. In case you didn't know, don't light a firework directly on top of
How many
your head.
lives did he save by doing that, you wonder?
Yeah, who's to say?
Yep.
All right, let's not leave the episode on a totally sour note, though. Having spent the entire episode talking about a sundowning old man who refuses to stop driving his Buick through farmers markets, it's wearing me down. So let's talk about another thing that sucks in D.C. The dang heat!
Oh, geez, I'm wilting.
And not just D.C. Everywhere. It was 124 degrees in Palm Springs this weekend.
Well, that's Palm Springs, the desert.
It was a world record, or a record for Palm Springs.
Hey, good news.
That's like fucking Abu Dhabi weather.
The good news is that the people of Florida, my people, the people of Florida, are finally accepting what a wet bulb temperature is, as far as conversations I've had with them, because they're now referencing it. They're not calling it the wet bulb temperature, but they're saying like, well, actually, it's 110 out when you factor in. It's like, okay, whatever you get you guys to that point. Like, problem is
do they acknowledge that there is a temperature at which the human body
cannot sweat?
will die if it doesn't?
They're getting there.
Okay.
But yes, it was also very hot there, very hot here. But also very hot in Washington, D.C.
Hot in D.C.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too long ago that we were making fun of that sculpture of Abraham Lincoln carved entirely out of wax that lasted just a few hours before kind of just melting into itself, which made it look like Lincoln was either getting some incredible top or that he was being blown away by the audio quality of a Maxwell brand cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
That sculpture was a funny look at man's hubris, but this next story is not only a failure because of the heat, it also got at least one person injured in the process. Over the weekend, a crew of people decided that they would break a world record for something we didn't know existed.
Which is most world records.
That's most world records these days. And they were gonna try to create the world's largest human ice cream cone. What is a human ice cream cone?
Yeah, when I saw the headlines, I immediately just assumed that some human was constructing a gigantic edible ice cream cone, or that maybe a bunch of people were gonna set a record all eating ice cream cones at once.
Yeah, that's the kind of record I can get behind.
But it was dumber than both of those. It was an attempt at literally creating the largest human ice cream cone, meaning hundreds, maybe even thousands of people would show up and dress in certain colors and then stand in a way that makes them look like a giant ice cream cone with ice cream on top.
This is not a thing.
Yeah, I know, but these towns, they gotta have their little events, don't they?
DC is not a little town that needs a little event. They got a
DC
lot going on
with
already.
their dog for mayor, they gotta keep busy. So yes, they would presumably, hypothetically do this, and then someone from Guinness would be like, yeah, that looks like an ice cream cone.
You did it. We're putting it in the big book.
Until, what's the country where the guy demands that they get all the records? Was it Turkey or something?
Turkmenistan.
Turkmenistan. So then they would beat it, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Surely an ice cream cone with no ice cream could survive the heat. It's the only way to do it. But no, it was exceptionally hot in D.C., and the outfits that they had people wear in order to match the theme, they were just rain ponchos.
Oh, what are you doing? No!
Basically large plastic bags that these people had to wear while standing in the heat, on asphalt, in a very specific location, without moving, for an extended period of time.
Like, DC's already humid as hell. You're just creating like a wet bulb, so you're accelerating the wet bulb situation by making it so that like...
I survived, and I also
literally
lost 30 pounds while trying to do the ice cream cone challenge.
Yeah, 30 pounds in your life.
Yeah, now to top it all off, while they were expecting hundreds of participants, because that's how many had signed up on their event page online.
That's always exactly how many show up.
Yeah. Only a few dozen showed up, and one person needed assistance from paramedics. Oh, God. Here's local outlet WTOP with more.
W-top. Everyone loves ice cream on a hot summer day, and trying to break a Guinness World Record is about as American as it gets, especially on the 4th of July. But when it came time to break the record for the biggest human ice cream cone ever, it seems the heat, just like it would with real ice cream, won out. The goal was to group together for a picture looking like an ice cream cone. It's summertime, it's hot, it's ice cream, explained Brian Reddy, who runs Barracks Row Main Street, the civic group that organized the effort. But breaking a world record is really hard to organize, as he would soon find out. Participants were excited to take part, at first. I've been standing for most of my life, so I think I've got this, said Stephanie Murray Miller, who lives in Missouri, but was in D.C. to visit a friend. I've ate some ice cream before, so that was another preparation. That sort of good humor.
Good humor?
Oh, good humor, you might call it, among those participating would soon melt away in the heat, though. You see, part of looking like an ice cream cone involved putting on a poncho. In that heat, with no shade, patience melted away even faster inside that plastic bag.
I want to point out, this is from an actual like local news outlet, and it had an author tied to it, but it really seems like something Grok would have come up with, this entire article.
No, this is what Grok was trained on.
Yeah.
Local news media.
Basically, they had everyone get dressed up in their ponchos, stand in the heat in specific spots, and then, this is even worse, they had numerous issues during the already doomed to fail process, which included moving a motorized lift around to get a good angle. They didn't have the angle set up. At one point, a tree was blocking it. Just a lot of strange things that were stopping this. But when it came down to it, it's like, at one point you had to say, look, there's just not enough people.
No! I want the record, damn it! I was born to break this record!
They tried anyway, despite all these issues. The ambulances have showed up here again.
America's on life support.
Yeah. And all these issues resulted in people who participated to just stand around even longer than they would have normally in the heat. And no, they never got the photo to look correct. It just looked like a street full of a few dozen people. And the official from Guinness broke the bad news a little while later, saying, unfortunately, I was not able to validate that this record met all of our guidelines, Sarah Casson told those who stuck around to hear her decision. We were not able to get a completely accurate count in the moment of the record attempt. Also, there was not a very clear image of the ice cream cone up to the caliber that we would require to consider this a broken record. But it was still a valiant attempt.
It was great, just not up to Guinness standards.
Which are historically low.
So better luck next year.
The event organizer summed it up just like Joe Biden would after this year's election, saying to the outlet, I think we did the best we could.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels here.
In this scenario, I agree. You know, you should get some credit for doing the best you could. When it comes to a fucking election for president of the United States, I think that's thrown out of the window.
You should do the best you do. Yeah, that's the bare minimum, I'd say.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyway, finally today, let's check in on New York's city mayor, Eric Adams.
By the way, that kid that sings that, he's in a real rough spot. At least the last time I checked.
Alicia Keys?
No, the kid that runs around screaming that song through the streets of New York. They got famous on TikTok briefly.
Oh.
He's like a full-blown alcoholic now that wears a captain's hat and sits around Penn Station waiting for people to give him money.
Yeah, that's New York, greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
So Eric Adams, you know, he has he's been up to a lot.
Yeah.
He has made another big announcement.
Yeah.
It's the latest hilarious bullshit he's getting into. It looks like he's very proud, and he, as he should be,
Yeah.
that New York City has finally figured out that trash cans exist. You should put trash in cans.
Yeah.
Sturdy plastic cans, rather than just dumping it on the street.
In mountains of trash.
So this is great. We are very proud of them. You did it. You did it. And this is a pretty good step towards Adam's ultimate goal of destroying every single rat that lives in New York City. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
rats like
funny,
trash.
but also he's the first person to ever even like consider that like dumping your trash out in the fucking street in the heat in thin plastic bags might be related. There might be some correlation here between our stupid archaic garbage system and the fact that there's giant cat-sized rats running around everywhere.
Also, the city fucking stinks half the time because those rats gnaw into the trash bag.
Yeah.
And then when they throw them in, the fucking trash goes spraying everywhere.
Every time I've been to New York City in summer, it smells awful. It smells like a garbage dump. And I'm going there in like a month or so, and
Yeah.
I'm so excited that this time the trash will be contained.
Well, we'll see.
I can breathe in the delicious New York City air.
I'm convinced that a bunch of New Yorkers are going to be like, nah, this isn't the New York that I love.
The garbage has gone woke. They're trying to wokeify our garbage. These DEI cans. But yeah, so it's pretty funny that for as far ahead as New York is, and in many aspects,
Yeah.
they've just kind of been dumping their trash on the street since forever. It's the way it's always worked.
Yeah.
So this latest video comes after other regulations regarding dumpsters and single-family bins made headlines. But the video of Eric Adams showing off just a normal fucking trash can and then demonstrating how to use it, it's incredible stuff.
He's very proud of it.
All while Alicia Keys blasts in the background, like at all of his media appearances.
Yeah, we're gonna show the video, but yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z featuring Alicia Keys.
Maybe we sing it over the
No,
silent
it's too
video.
close. Our voices are too beautiful, Elliot. We can try though.
New York!
But yes, he's putting the trash in there and he's calling it a trash revolution. So here's the clip. New York,
New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Nothing can stand
What you can't do. Put the trash
Come
in
on,
the trash
Jay-Z,
can.
get on the track.
Yeah, put the trash cans in the trash. Trash bags in the trash. Anyways, whatever works. I'm happy that New York is cleaning up its act.
I'm glad they got there finally. It's just very funny. Like every time something about New York and trash during Eric Adams' reign has been released, everyone in the country is just like, wait, did they not have that before?
Everyone's very confused.
What did they do before? They did what? Yeah. Well, there's your problem.
Anyways, no sponsor this week, and we did use a bunch of clips, so hopefully it's fully monetizable. But who knows? Click the join button, and you can support the show financially. It's like $5 a month. We put out a bunch of videos every month.
So many.
So much time, so much love goes into this. And guess what? If you're watching this, it is my birthday. Click the join
Happy
button for my
birthday to
Me.
you.
We're gonna get copyright for that too. Click
No,
the
I
join-
think it finally got out of the public domain.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah,
You
great.
can sing happy birthday now.
Can you do what? Does that mean they can sing it at Chili's?
Yeah, I think so.
Now I'm too attached to the happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Do we have a birthday here? Yes, we do.
It's you.
all the fun like family restaurant fake birthday songs.
Here's your fries, eat them. All right, yes, so please click the join button, but at the very least,
Do it for his birthday.
at the very least,
He's 81 years old.
I'm getting close. Make sure to leave a like on the video, and please subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you're subscribed. We have some videos for you to watch. They're a week old now, but they're still fun. You can watch those. You're watching a timeline of Joe Biden potentially getting shoved out of the position.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, come on. Check those out. We'll see you soon for some tech news.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.